Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be going through the current weekly lab on BugForge, which is the MesaNet Portal. This is actually the second time I'm sitting down to record this video. The first time I got about halfway through and my keyboard died, so I had to stop and I'm now going back through. Um, Really, I just want to take you through kind of how I did this lab. And just full transparency, I really kind of banged my head against the desk on this one for a little while. There was something early on that was staring me right in the face, and I was just way overthinking it. Um, Tried to cram in a lot of different magic to make different things work, and it just wasn't working. So um, finally ended up bouncing a couple ideas off the community, and something clicked, and it made sense, and I kind of went and smacked myself in the face for just really overthinking this a lot. But I had a lot of fun with this lab. So this is the first hard lab that we've had on BugForge, and it involves finding endpoints on a hidden application. One of which is, or one of the functionalities on one of those endpoints is vulnerable to a SQL injection vulnerability, uh, which we can use to extract credentials for a database administrator portal on the website, where we can create a backup of a database, and that backup contains a one-time passcode that we can use to access the developer portal, which contains the flag. So let's jump into this here, and you can see right at the beginning, we're given the credentials operator to get started. So um, I've already got this lab pulled up, so let's go ahead and get into this. So before I get too far into this, I'm just going to show you the recon that I did kind of up front. Um, Originally, I was kind of looking at, are there different endpoints that I need to try to exploit? Is there something maybe sensitive um, on an endpoint that I can find? But what I can do, let me just grab this URL and then come over here, and I can just do fuzz with the word list. I'm using Fuzzy Finder, and I have an alias set that will allow me to just quickly um, find word list to use. For the sake of time, I'm just going to try doing this with common from sec lists, and we'll just see. So, yeah, you can see there's a DB and a dev endpoint. Okay, so for right now, just keep those in mind. We'll come back to those later. Um, but those will come into play later on once we get a little further down the road. So what I want to do is just kind of go through this application. So we land on the dashboard, and you can see there's um, two apps here within the UI. So there's this Nexus app, which contains research notes. You can look through all these, and if we come back over here, it helps if I turn my PwnFox back on so that we're actually getting this traffic in Kaido. Now there we go. Okay, so now if we look at this, you see that everything is going through this gateway endpoint. So uh, to get a note, it's sending this post request to the gateway endpoint, and it's giving this app ID here, this UUID. and it's got the endpoint for what it's requesting, and it's giving a note ID. Well, if we come back and look, so there's this API notes list endpoint that doesn't have any data, and this gives us all the notes. So if you notice here, it kind of goes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 5. So my initial thought was, well, is there um, a note 4? And so I tried that, tried changing that ID to 4, and we don't have permissions to read that note. So um, if you come back over here um, to the Nexus app, you can see we have permissions to read public and restricted notes, and we have permissions to write public notes. So my guess is that um, the there you can see there's three classifications: so public, restricted, and confidential. My guess is that the note 4 and I think 11 and 13 are confidential, so we don't have permissions to read those. I initially thought that that might be something that we'd need to uh, try to abuse or try to get access to those notes. Um, it wasn't, but it's definitely something to look at, something to be aware of. So let's come back over here. And so we've got, where were we? So what I want to show is this UUID here. So if we look at the secure mail, get my email here, and then we come back over. So note that this was the one for the notes, starts with A7. If we come back over here and look at the one that we got for the mail, starts with B3. So this is indicative of what app we're using, and you'll see that if you try to fuzz these endpoints um, based on what UUID you're including, um, will kind of dictate what endpoints you get back. So what I want to do is show a if we create a UUID with all zeros, generate that, copy it, and come back over here and paste that in here. So we get a different error now, and it says rail endpoint not found. And this is where I was really kind of banging my head against the wall. I was way overthinking this. Really, what we actually need to do here is pretty straightforward. Um, so I want to show. Let's just say we try to. I can get rid of this ID. I don't need that. Let's say I try to go to dev and send it. So only API endpoints are allowed. So I know it's got to start with API. And really what we need to do is we just need to fuzz uh, the Rail app, right? And say test Rail endpoint not found. So what I want to do now is I'm going to send this over to my automate, and I'm going to put a placeholder uh, on test. And what I want to do is I'm going to come over here and we'll just use common again. Check my settings. I'll run it with 10, hopefully. I did run into a little bit of an issue when I was going through this the first time. When I was fuzzing with 10 workers, I did end up getting some timeouts. So we'll run this, we'll see how it goes. But okay, so you see a lot of these are coming back with 404 status, rail endpoint not found. So what we can do is we can filter response code not equal to 404. Okay, so you see we've already got a few endpoints back, right? So we've got announcements, create, current. There will be a few more that come through, but for right now, this is good. So you can see we've got all these announcements. Um, Again, my initial thought was maybe there's something in here that I would need to, pull some information out of here. But okay, I think this is all the endpoints that I actually need. So I'm just gonna pause that and cancel the automate task. It's enough. But there's so going back to what I was saying, there's really not anything in here, but the interesting endpoint for us is this create endpoint. This allows us to create our own announcements. So you see, if we send it with nothing in the data object, we get this error type message timestamp and priority are required. So let's just go ahead and send this over to the replay and we'll try to create a announcement and then we'll play with that and see what we can do with it. Okay, so we need type and we'll just say test. We need a message. We'll also say test. Timestamp. It is now 11:15 my time. And we need a priority. And we'll say hi. So let's send this and see if that works. So it looks like it did. We're able to successfully create this announcement. Now, what I found was that this um, type field is actually vulnerable to a SQL injection. So if we resend this with a single quote, we see we get this error, failed to create announcement. This is kind of what you get on this application if there's an error either somewhere on the back end or somewhere with your syntax. So um, what I can do is I can try to um, concatenate a um, SQL query here. So I'll say select, and I just happen to know you can test this with different um, version strings. Try to get the version for different backend databases. I happen to know that for most of these, the backend database is SQLite. So I'll say select SQLite version. And if this works, what I should see is test immediately followed by uh, the SQLite version. And we do. So here in type, we see test 3.44.2. So now we know that there's SQL injection in the type field. So I can go from here and I know I want to enumerate the database tables. And if I just do uh, table name, I'm only going to get the first one. So I want to use group concat um, TBL name from SQLite master. And then I want to use a where clause so that it limits my query to only those where the type is table, where type equals table. So if I send that now, I see that there's an announcements table, a SQLite sequence, and a config table. So this config is the one that I'm interested in, and this is the most interesting one here right now. So um, in order to enumerate the columns for the config table, you can just reference payloads all the things. Um, this is the command that works for that. Um, so group concat name as column names from pragma table info, and then the name of the table in the parentheses. So let me copy that, come back over, paste that in, and then I need to change table name here to config. Send that. So we see that there's a key, value, description, and updated at properties. So let's change this, and I want to say select group concat well, from config first. So what I want to do is I want to get all of the key and value pairs out of the config table. And the way I'm going to do that is key, and I'm going to separate the key and value with a dash here. And I'm using these pipes as a concatenation operator to kind of put those both together. So this should work. So let's send that. And it doesn't. So, oops, I have a. Okay, there we go. So we've got the first key is db underscore username, and so find db admin, and then the second key is db password, and the second value is this big long string here. So remember when we did the enumeration up front, we found that db endpoint. So that's where I want to go now. So let's go back over here and go to db. And if we look at this, there's an administrator login form here. So let me grab these credentials real quick. DB admin, paste that in, and then make sure I copy this whole thing. And log in. Okay, so now there's an option to create a backup and export of one of the attached database or one of the connected databases. Excuse me. Drink real quick. And it needs to be in this, it's telling me that it needs to be in this format. Okay, so if I just say name, or we'll say main. So I get an error. Invalid database name must be, so it's looking for this. So some name and then DB. So what I ended up doing was I ended up sending this to automate, and just set a placeholder here. And I'm going to load the Same file. I'm just using common from sec lists, and this should work. Um, so let's run that again. Bunch of 400s, so we can filter on response code that doesn't equal 400, and we'll see if we get that back. I'm trying common here in the interest of time in the video. When I did this, I used, I think the raft large words, um, also from seclists. So I think common should work, but I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, now we see we get rail and portal, right? So this portal is the one that we really want. Okay, so I'm going to send this over to replay and we can take a look at this. Um, you can do this a couple of different ways. You can either um, actually do an export in the UI and look at the database contents using any kind of database browser that supports SQLite. You can use the SQLite command line. Um, I I guess maybe cheated a little bit and just looked at this um, in Kaido. So if you look at what this is, it's basically the table of all the users, right? So if we come down and we find our operator user, it's number 13 here, and if you look, there's this dev OTP, um, and this contains a passcode. So the trick with this is um, there is a time limit. So if we come back over here to dashboard and we go to the dev console, um, we can see if that passcode still works. It resets every 60 seconds. So um, that didn't work. Let's just send that again. I'm going to grab the new one. And you see we get the flag. So um, I like doing this in the replay, just because if I'm not fast enough or I run out of time, I can just go back, grab, uh, go resend the request, grab the new code instead of having to bother with downloading and looking at that in a browser. But yeah, so that was the first hard lab. Um, I didn't think it was too bad once you get past the initial point, and like I said, that initial point was uh, probably more difficult for me than it should have been because I was really overcomplicating things. I think the lesson here is um, don't overcomplicate things. If something says rail endpoint, um, literally try to fuzz for rail, and I think you'll get to where you need to go. But I thought this was really good. It was a good multi-step. Oh, I've got visitors. Um, a good multi-step lab. Uh, took some thinking to work through different aspects of it. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. Feel free to reach out with any questions, comments, and we'll see you next time.